People always said Erika Kirk was perfect, too perfect. The kind of woman who smiled just a little too long, watched just a little too quietly, and appeared in places no one remembered inviting her to. But last week, something surfaced, something that wasn't supposed to exist. A recording. A hidden room. A voice that didn't sound human at all. And now everyone is asking the same question. Who is Erika Kirk really, and what has she been hiding all this time? Because once you see what was discovered, you can't unsee it. People had always felt there was something slightly off about Erika Kirk, but no one could ever explain it in words. She wasn't scary, exactly, she was polite, generous, and always immaculately put together. But there was a calmness about her that felt unnatural, like she was always calculating 3 steps ahead. A stillness behind her eyes. A quietness in her movements. She was the type of person you noticed even when she wasn't doing anything at all. And that was the part that unsettled people the most. When I first met Erika, she didn't smile the way normal people smile. It was soft, slow, almost practiced. The corners of her mouth lifted just a little too evenly, as if she'd rehearsed the motion in a mirror and memoized it. But at the time, I didn't think much of it. I didn't think much of anything. I was just a freelance documentary journalist desperate for my next project. Erika was a philanthropist, influencer, and founder of several charities with reputations as clean as glass. She was the perfect candidate for a feel-good human interest story. Or so I thought. The first time I visited her home, I noticed how unnervingly quiet it was. Not peaceful quiet, sterile quiet. No hum of appliances, no distant street noise, no scattering of personal items. Everything was minimal, polished, and chilled. Her house didn't feel lived in. It felt curated. As if she walked through it without ever touching anything. Erika led me to her living room with that same slow, measured pace. Her feet didn't make a sound on the hardwood floor. She spoke softly, taking long pauses between sentences, as if listening for something I couldn't hear. "You want to understand my work?" she said with that question-like tone she used for every statement. "That requires trust." At first, I assumed she meant trust in the typical sense, trust to tell her story accurately. But the longer we talked, the clearer it became that she meant something else entirely. Her questions weren't surface level. They were piercing. "What do you fear the most?" she asked. "What is the one memory you wish you could erase? If you had to choose between knowing the truth and staying safe, which would you choose?" It didn't feel like an interview. It felt like an evaluation. I told myself I was overthinking. I needed the job. Besides, her staff adored her. They spoke highly of her leadership, her generosity, the way she noticed every little detail. "Erika sees everything," one assistant said with a smile that didn't match her eyes. Everything. The strange feeling didn't become undeniable until I received an email 2 nights after our first meeting. It was from an anonymous address, no subject, no signature, just a single video file. I almost deleted it, assuming it was spam. But something compelled me to open it. The screen stayed black for the first few seconds, and then a dim, red-tinted image faded in. A room. Small, windowless, concrete walls. A single metal chair bolted to the floor. The camera panned slowly, jerking in an unsteady hand. In the corner of the room stood a tall shape. Human-like. Motionless. Facing the wall. At first, I thought it was a mannequin, until it moved. Its head turned. Just slightly. Just enough to reveal the side of its face. Erika's face. Not exactly her, but close enough that my stomach flipped. The image glitched. The figure stepped forward, and as it did, the video cut abruptly to black. I stared at my screen, unable to breathe. Someone was messing with me. That had to be it. Some prank, maybe a hacker. Except, why would anyone target me? And why right after meeting Erika? The next morning, I drove back to her estate, determined to confront her, not with accusations, but with concern. Something was happening, and I needed answers. But when I arrived, Erika seemed entirely unfazed. Almost expectant. "You received something last night," she said calmly, without me mentioning it. "Did it frighten you?" I froze. "How did you know that?" Her slow smile returned, the practiced one. People often receive things they are not prepared for. I tried to press for details, but she only redirected my questions, asking more of her own, probing, invasive, almost predatory. The interview felt wrong, like she was peeling back layers of me without granting a single layer of herself. At one point during the filming, I asked if I could get some B-roll footage of her workspace to include in the documentary. She agreed, but insisted on guiding me. "Some areas are private," she said. "You must stay close." We walked through long corridors that didn't match the architecture of the house. They were too industrial, too narrow, too cold. The walls were made of a heavy material that didn't look like wood or plaster. The ceiling lights flickered with an unnatural buzzing hum. "This doesn't look like part of a home," I said quietly. "Some homes have layers," Erika replied. At the end of one corridor was a locked metal door. I reached for it instinctively, wanting to see what was inside. Erika's hand shot out, gripping my wrist with surprising force. "Not that door," she said. Her voice was still calm, but her fingers dug into my skin like claws. "No matter what happens, you must never open that door." I didn't ask why. Her tone told me I wouldn't like the answer. That night, back in my hotel room, I couldn't stop thinking about the door. And the video. And the uncanny quiet of her house. I tried to tell myself I was imagining things, but my gut screamed otherwise. When I reviewed the footage I'd taken earlier, I expected to see normal interview clips, background shots, notes for editing. But between two of the interview segments, there was a 3-second clip I didn't remember recording. A dark hallway. A metal chair. A shadow standing in the corner. And then, just before the clip ended, a face leaned close to the camera. Erika's face. But distorted. Wrong. Like someone had stretched the features, widened the eyes, pulled the smile too far. I slammed my laptop shut. That night, I barely slept. Every sound made me jump. Every shadow looked like it was waiting for me to close my eyes. At around 3 a.m., I heard something at my door. Not knocking, just breathing. Slow, steady breathing. I held my breath, waiting for it to stop. But it didn't. It stayed there, right behind the door, as if listening. When I finally gathered the courage to look through the peephole, my entire body turned cold. There was no one there. But the breathing continued. The next morning, I found a note slipped under my door. White paper. Neat handwriting. No signature. "You shouldn't have come back yesterday." My hands shook as I held the paper. I grabbed my phone, ready to call someone, anyone. The police, a friend, the documentary studio. But before I dialed, another message popped up on my screen. Unknown number. No name. Come back tonight. Alone. There is something you need to see. And beneath the text, a location pin. Erika's estate. Only it wasn't marking her house. It was marking the back of her property. The woods. The place her staff had warned me never to go near. Something inside me said turn back. Leave. Forget the story. But another voice, I should have left right then. Every instinct in my body screamed at me to turn around, drive away, and never speak Erika's name again. But curiosity has a way of rotting common sense. And fear, real fear, doesn't always paralyze. Sometimes it pulls you forward as if your survival depends on finding the source. So I stepped inside. The underground tunnel stretched ahead, dimly lit by flickering lights built into the ceiling. The walls were the same cold material I'd seen in Erika's house. Not concrete, not metal, something in between. It reminded me of bone polished smooth. The hum grew louder the farther I walked. I recorded everything, partly for the documentary, partly to convince myself this was real. My footsteps echoed in a strange pattern, as if the space around me wasn't fully solid. At one point the temperature dropped so sharply that my breath fogged the air. I tugged my jacket tighter around myself, but it didn't help. After several minutes, the tunnel opened into a larger chamber. And that was when I saw them. Chairs. Dozens of them. All bolted to the floor in neat rows, each with leather restraints dangling from the armrests. The room looked like a twisted auditorium built for an audience that would never leave. And on every chair was a faint imprint, like someone, or something, had recently been sitting there. I swallowed hard and took a shaky breath. What the hell is this place? My voice didn't echo. Instead, it felt swallowed by the air, absorbed before it could bounce back. I lifted my camera, sweeping across the room. That's when I noticed something else, scratches on the floor. Deep ones, as though someone had tried to claw their way out of the room. I backed away, suddenly dizzy. This was wrong. All of it. If Erika was connected to this place, if she'd built it, then everything I had assumed about her was wrong too. The hum grew louder, vibrating through the floor. And then the overhead lights flickered violently, and shut off entirely. Darkness swallowed me so quickly that I staggered forward, losing my balance. I fumbled to turn my flashlight back on, and nearly screamed when I realized I wasn't alone. A silhouette stood at the opposite end of the room. Tall. Still. Facing me. The light flickered as my hand trembled, and the beam caught the figure's face for only a fraction of a second. But that was enough. Erika. Or something that looked like her. Her head tilted at an unnatural angle, eyes too wide, smile stretched into something that wasn't remotely human. She didn't move toward me, but her presence alone felt suffocating, like she was pressing against my thoughts. I stumbled backward, heart pounding so hard I thought my chest might crack. Stay away from me, I whispered, though the words barely escaped my lips. The lights flashed again. When they turned back on, she was gone. Just gone. I spun in every direction, flashlight cutting through the empty space. But she had vanished as silently as she had appeared. My breath hitched as I forced myself toward the only other exit, a narrow hallway tucked behind the rows of chairs. I didn't know where it led, but anywhere was better than here. The hallway was tighter, the walls closer. The hum was louder. I moved fast, practically running, but then something on the wall caught my attention. Photos. Thousands of them. Taped, pinned, plastered across every inch of surface. I moved the light closer, and felt a wave of nausea rise in my throat. Faces. Not random people, people I recognized. People who worked for Erika. Assistants, coordinators, volunteers, donors. Some photos were recent. Others looked old, grainy, discolored. The expression on each face was the same. Fear. As if every person in those photos had been captured right before something terrible happened. My hands shook as I kept walking. The photos grew more disturbing, blurred shapes behind the people, long silhouettes reaching toward them, faces that didn't resemble anything living. And then, right at the center of the collage, there was a photo of me. Taken yesterday. Taken inside her house. Taken from an angle I didn't recognize. My throat tightened. I hadn't seen any cameras. And yet, the image was crystal clear. My reflection in the hallway mirror, holding my equipment bag. A shot I couldn't have taken myself. Someone had been watching me the entire time. I backed away from the wall, but something stopped me. A whisper. Faint, almost imperceptible. Not a voice, voices. Layered. Overlapping. Calling my name. I ran. The hallway twisted, expanded, contracted, as if the architecture shifted with each step. My mind couldn't keep up. I didn't fully register when I burst into another chamber, larger than the first, with a ceiling that disappeared into darkness. In the center of the room stood a table. And on the table was a single object. A mask. Perfectly sculpted. Lifelike. It was Erika's face. Not a replica, an exact duplicate. Every eyelash, every pore, every tiny freckle. I moved closer in spite of myself, and only then did I notice the edges. They weren't synthetic. They weren't carved. They looked organic. As if someone had peeled it from a living body. My stomach lurched and I stumbled backward, hitting the edge of another table behind me. Something slid off and landed on the floor with a hollow thud. When I lifted my light, my blood ran cold. Another mask. This one wasn't Erika. It was me. My face. My expression froze in a state of fear so raw it made my skin crawl. I touched my cheek instinctively, half expecting to feel loose skin, to feel something missing. But I was intact. For now. Footsteps echoed behind me. Slow. Deliberate. I spun around, and this time, it wasn't the copy standing there. It was Erika. The real one. Or at least, I thought it was. Her voice was soft, almost sympathetic. I told you not to come here. What is this? I demanded, my voice cracking. Her expression didn't change. A place where truth lives. What does that mean? She stepped closer, her movements fluid like she wasn't walking but gliding. There are many versions of us, she whispered. Some we show the world. Some we keep hidden. Some we grow. My skin turned cold. Grow? What are those things? I pointed toward the masks, my voice trembling. They are possibilities, she said. Faces we wear when we need to be seen. Faces we remove when we need to disappear. None of it made sense. Or maybe it made too much sense, in a way I didn't want to understand. Why me? I asked. Erika tilted her head. Because you came looking for the truth. And the moment you seek it, it begins seeking you. The hum intensified, vibrating through the chamber. Something moved behind her, shadows shifting, stretching, separating from the darkness. They had faces. All of them. Faces that looked like Erika. Faces that looked like me. Faces that were still forming. Erika stepped aside, as if presenting them. Choose, she whispered. I shook my head in terror. Choose what? One of them, she said softly, or they will choose for you. The shadows stepped forward. And all at once, I understood, this wasn't a room of masks. It was a room of replacements. And they weren't finished yet. The shadows moved like liquid, sliding across the floor in slow, pulsing waves. Their faces, half-grown, half-formed, glimmered with a sickening, fleshy sheen under the dim lights. Some looked like Erika. Some looked like distorted versions of me. Others were blank, faceless things waiting for. Then something brushed the back of my neck. I spun, swinging my flashlight wildly, only to realize it wasn't turning on. I slapped the side of it, hit the button again. Still nothing. The breathing started next. Not from one place, but from everywhere. Surrounding me. Encircling me. Some breaths were soft, some sharp, some wet and rattling like lungs filled with fluid. The air grew warm and sticky with the sound of it. Stop, I choked out. Stop. A dozen voices whispered at once. Choose. 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 I don't want this. I cried out. Suddenly, light returned. Not from the ceiling, but from the far end of the chamber. A door. A real door. Wooden. Familiar. Ordinary. It shouldn't have been there, not in a place like this. But it glowed faintly, as if calling to me. As if promising escape. I ran. I didn't think so. I didn't breathe. I just sprinted toward the door with every ounce of strength left in me. The shadows shrieked, an awful sound, metal scraping against meat. They reached for me, long fingers stretching, twisting, grabbing at my clothes, my arms, my legs. I tore free and lunged for the door. My hand hit the knob. I yanked it open. Light flooded into the chamber, warm, golden daylight. The woods. The outside. The real world. I stepped through, falling onto dirt, leaves, and fresh air. I slammed the door shut behind me, and the moment it clicked, silence. No hum. No breathing. Nothing. The door was gone. Completely vanished. I scrambled backward, panting so hard my ribs hurt. The forest was normal. Birds chirped somewhere in the distance. Wind rustled the branches. The underground chamber, the tunnels, the masks, the shadows, were nowhere to be seen. I pulled out my phone with trembling hands. No messages. No missed calls. No location pins. No video. Everything from the last few days, gone. Deleted. Like it never happened. I stumbled through the woods until I reached my car. I don't remember driving, only the overwhelming need to get as far away from Erika's property as possible. By the time city lights came into view, I was shaking so hard I could barely keep the wheel steady. At home, I locked the door behind me and collapsed onto the floor. My reflection in the window stared back, wild-eyed, hollow-cheeked, terrified. And for a moment, just a moment, I thought I saw the reflection smile even though I wasn't smiling at all. I backed away, heart pounding, and turned on every light in the house. Hours passed. I didn't sleep. I couldn't sleep. My mind replayed everything, the masks, the faces, the voices telling me to choose. I tried to convince myself it was hallucination, exhaustion, fear-induced delusion. Until my phone buzzed. A single notification. Unknown sender, do you understand now? I dropped the phone instantly. My hands went cold. Another notification appeared. You can't unsee the truth. I stepped back, shaking my head. No, 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 a third message came through. Image received. My chest tightened as I tapped it open. It was a photo. Taken through my living room window. And in the reflection of the glass, right behind me, was a shape. Tall. Still. Smiling. The same stretched, unnatural smile from the chamber. I whipped around. No one was there. The room was empty. But the air felt wrong, thick, heavy, as if someone had just been breathing down my neck. Another message appeared. We still need your face. The lights flickered. Once. Twice. Then went out completely. Darkness swallowed the room. I stumbled backward, frantically reaching for a lamp or switch. But all I could feel was empty air. And then, soft footsteps circled me, slow and deliberate. The humming returned. Low. Rhythmic. Growing louder. A whisper brushed my ear. You were chosen the moment you stepped through the door. I ran. I don't know where. I just know that the shadows followed. That no matter how many lights I turn on, no matter how many locks I bolt, no matter how many miles I put between myself and Erika's estate, I still hear the hum when the house gets quiet. I still see faces in the corner of mirrors that aren't supposed to be there. And sometimes, in the deepest part of the night, when the world is silent and sleep pulls at my eyelids, I feel something cold touch my cheek. Checking the shape. Measuring. Preparing. Waiting. Because Erika was right. There are many versions of us. Some we show. Some we hide. And some are waiting for their turn to take our place. If this story creeped you out, make sure to hit the like button before the shadows get any closer. Subscribe and turn on notifications, because the next video goes even deeper. Trust me, you don't want to miss what comes next. And let me know in the comments, what do you think Erika was really hiding? I'll be reading every theory.